Ulisikia wapi? Ulisikia wapi? I am loving that video, guys.
Ulisikia wapi?
Hello, habari, Wendy Wete here, and right now I'm in Nairobi. And listen, I don't know who we collectively offended because it is freezing out here and this weather feels like punishment. I'm having this wine. It's Maritime Rosé. I really like that it usually has this little beaded masai thing. I apologize in advance if you can hear my neighbor's kids shrieking in the background. I happen to live in apartment blocks. Let's just say it's hard being a childless spinster up in these streets. But we have a rosé and let's get into this video. So, at the beginning of this year, me and my friend Bonita decided to go on a trip from Kenya to South Africa using public transport. Yes, using buses and matatus and boda, any form of public transport. Why? Flights within Africa can be expensive, especially if you want to hit up like several countries along the way. Then also there's the option of driving down to SA, but it's like, what are you gonna do with your car after that? In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the tips I picked up along the way because this is a trip so many people want to take. Even I wanted to go on this trip for so long before we actually did it. And I would see all these people driving down to SA. Like, it's such a bucket list item, isn't it? And that's why you're here now. First, let's talk budget. My entire budget for this trip was 200,000 Kenya shillings. But I believe you can actually do this trip very comfortably on like even 100,000 Kenya shillings. So my strategy was this, right? I wanted to be very frugal on the transport, on some of the accommodation, unless we were planning to spend more days in a particular country or a particular town, city, then we could splurge on like a nicer hotel. Nice activities. I love adventure, like that's my thing. So I wanted to be able to check out a couple of activities when I was there. Sometimes you're just stopping whenever and you're not necessarily going to get the best food. Have some nice drinks along the way. So just like the entertainment aspect of it. Oh, and this 200k included my flights back as well from South Africa, and nilirudi mpaka na change. If you want to like enjoy a couple of things along the way, you know, raha jipe, enjoyment lazima, then maybe anywhere from 100k you're set. How long did our trip take? It was just under 3 weeks. We had actually planned to do it for longer, hit up more countries, but then coronavirus struck. So we decided to fly back to Kenya like before we were done exploring. If you have 2 weeks, like that's a solid enough time for you to leave Nairobi, hit up several countries along the way, then you can decide where you want to spend more time, where you want to kind of just skim through. What should you pack for this trip? Someone who travels quite a bit, I have a lot of like bags that I carry around on trips. My tip would be this, like I wanted a bag that would be hassle-free, but was big enough to carry like clothes over 3 weeks. So I went with a backpack. I think it's like 30 liters. That thing was heavy, you know, that thing was heavy. I feel like I was working out my back muscles and I came back ripped, but it course corrected during Corona. My big backpack just had clothes and shoes, like a towel, those kinds of items. So then you could be put in the luggage compartment of these buses, and I wasn't like worried if someone went away with it. I also brought along a smaller bag, which is what I used for like my small laptop because I still needed to work, and that's what I used to carry my equipment, my cameras, you know, my passports, the money. It was always stuck to me. I think that's a good strategy. Like, you don't need to carry a suitcase and haul around. It's gonna be cumbersome to keep hopping on and off buses and like walking some of the distances we were walking from, say, our accommodation to the bus stop with this huge backpack. And then some other essentials you need for this trip. If you're Kenyan or from a lot of African countries, you definitely need a yellow fever certificate, your passport. We didn't need a visa. Like, as Kenyans, we didn't need a visa for any of these countries except to South Africa. If you're coming from a country that's outside of Africa, please just check the government's website to see what you would need to make this trip. For currency, I learned that the best thing to do is to have your money in US dollars. Like, when you're still back in Kenya, just go to the Forex Bureau and exchange a whole bunch of money into US dollars. And then when you're crossing through these borders by bus, then you just change the dollars into the currency of the country you're entering. Get a travel visa card if you can. Bonita had one from I&M Bank and it worked perfectly fine in all the countries we were going to. I had a visa card from KCB, and then I called them beforehand to tell them I was going to be traveling between this and this date, and I'll be going through these countries. Please whitelist them so that I would be able to make transactions in this country without you guys blocking my card, maybe thinking someone is scamming me, right? The card didn't work when I was in Tanzania, and the card also didn't work when I was in Namibia. So that's why I'm like, cover all your bases. If you have cash, then if your card doesn't work in a country, then you're covered, you know. But if you also have a card and someone steals your money or you're short on cash, then you can still exchange it. If you're ever stuck, because this has happened to me, it happened to me in Ethiopia, which was outside of this trip. Get someone back in your country to send you money, and then you can just withdraw it from any Western Union. There's a Western Union in pretty much every country you go to. And then for accommodation, guys, please do not book in advance, right? And if you're someone who likes like everything being planned to the T, you will suffer on a trip like this, because a lot can happen when you're on the road. The bus can be delayed. Maybe you get there and you're super tired. We would leave at 6 a.m. in the morning and arrive at the next destination at around like 9 p.m. and then you're up again at around 7 a.m. the next morning. So it's a very tiring journey. If you're booked an accommodation in, say, Botswana, by the time you're getting to Zambia, you're just exhausted and you want to spend 2 extra days just relaxing and checking out this town you're in. So then what happens to that money if it was already deducted and it's non-refundable, you know? Just go with the flow. You have to be easygoing. We didn't even plan this trip to a T. We were really winging it. We were really trying it. We tried it. For accommodation, what we would do is we would just arrive at the destination and then ask the guys at the booking office if they could recommend somewhere to sleep just around that bus station, so then we didn't have to get transport to get to that bus station the next morning. Border guys are the real plug, but you have to be safe though. Sometimes you get to a destination and you have no idea where you are. So and it's 9 p.m. How are you even going to try figure out where this hotel that you booked is? You don't even have internet yet because you haven't bought a SIM card. And buy a SIM card. Buy a SIM card for every country that you go to. You can get these at the border. Just buy a SIM card, get some data bundles, you know, get on the internet so you're always connected. You can always update people on where you are in case something happens to you. So for entertainment, these trips are long, like the road distances are so long. I think back to it now and I'm like, how the heck did we do that? I hope you subscribe to my channel, Sha. If you've watched this long, what are you waiting for? Subscribe. Go and click that subscribe button. Like this video if you're liking the tips I'm giving you so far. Let's talk about a route next. So many ways you can go. Just pull out the African map, right? You can go from Kenya into, let me see, Tanzania, then you go to Malawi, then you can hit up Zambia, go into Zimbabwe, and then go to Mozambique, and then go into South Africa. That's one way. The way we did it, we left Kenya and then we went into Tanzania, then to Zambia, then to Namibia, and then into South Africa. When you get to Zambia, you can branch out into so many ways. You can go to Mozambique, you can go to Botswana, you can go to Zimbabwe. Like, you can hit up so many countries on this trip. So just pick whatever works for you. Transport isn't really an issue. Africa is so connected. Like, we don't really have these long haul trains, like a train from Kenya to South Africa. I wish there was. Like, I would hop on and hop off on all these countries along the way, right? But there is a train though. So you leave Kenya, you go to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and then there's a train from Tanzania. You can catch it in Dar es Salaam or you can catch it in Mbeya, and it goes all the way to Kapirimposhi in Zambia. But we missed the train. Like, the train only leaves on scheduled days, so plan your trip around that. We left kind of impromptu, and I hear the train also needs to be booked in advance, so figure out that situation. But for the buses, you don't really need to book it like a week in advance. We're kind of just rocking up in the morning and booking a bus to the next station that very morning. But most of the time though, because we were getting accommodations that were pretty close to the bus station, we would just book the night before, and then you know what time you need to wake up in the morning. I don't fear traveling across Africa by buses. Like, they were pretty safe. I don't think there's a point at which I felt threatened or unsafe, insecure, or scared for my life even once. The downside is that some of the distances are so long, so you'll be sat on a bus for like 9 hours, 10 hours, 14 hours. I think the longest stretch we did was like 15 hours if I'm not wrong. So prepare to do a lot of sitting. So yo, you should definitely check out Zanzibar. If you've never been to Zanzibar, I have a lot of Zanzibar videos on this channel. Go check those out. Go to Dar es Salaam. From Dar es Salaam, catch the ferry and go to Zanzibar. And then from Zanzibar, you can come back to Dar es Salaam and continue on with the journey. Depends on how much time you have and what your interests are, right? Another downside I noticed is when we left Nakonde. So Nakonde is on the Zambian side of the Kenya-Tanzania border. We left Nakonde to Lusaka. Lusaka is the capital of Zambia. That bus ride was super long. There was nothing to see for miles. We left at like 6 a.m. in the morning, and by the time we were stopping for lunch, let me tell you, it was like 4 p.m. and we left at 6 before breakfast, because you kind of just rush out of your hotel and go catch the bus, hoping you're going to have breakfast or lunch sometime soon. And that just didn't happen. So by the time we were stopping for lunch, we were famished. So if you're on any diet here, it's not gonna work. If you can't, maybe try buy snacks or bring some fruits with you. Just figure out the food situation. Our lunches were not always the best. Sometimes you stop at this transit restaurant where they only have fries or some mishkaki or like popcorn, and then you're just gonna eat popcorn and go to the next destination. Some other things to have in mind. This is Africa. Like, corruption is rife. There will literally be a sign saying bribes are not accepted here in someone's office, and they'll be asking you blatantly for a bribe. And they won't even beat about the bush. They'll just be like, how much are you giving me to let you through? And the Zambian borders are notorious for this. Like the Zambia-Zimbabwe border, the Tanzania-Zambia border. I don't know what's up with the Zambian border officials. They're very notorious for this. One person tried telling us that we needed a cholera vaccine to get into the country, and without that, then we needed to pay him. And we only had our yellow fever certificate, and it lists any other vaccines that you've gotten, and he just saw there was no cholera on it, and he's like, you need to give us money. But it's like, this is not listed on your website at all. Can you give us any official leaflet or show us any poster or any, you know, printed thing that says that a cholera vaccine is needed to come into your country? He just wanted money, so he was making things up, right? So if you're very meek, you'll definitely get taken advantage of. We were not having it. If you want to see an in-depth, like, real-time account of how this trip went, then check out my Instagram. I posted like real-time Instagram stories, so just check out each country I mentioned us visiting and just see what happened, where we stayed, what we did. If you want to follow the exact route, maybe stay in the same places or check some of the buses that we did, definitely check out my Instagram stories. My handle is water on the go. I will write it right here. Very doable trip. Just note some of the bus stops will be super hectic. Yo, some of the bus stops will be so hectic. I'm just remembering this. Like, the Tanzanian one, Steady Coup in Mbeya, was a nightmare. You walk in, they give you, first of all, you're surrounded by 10 bus boys or bus conductors, whatever you call it in your country, and they're all trying to get you to pay to buy a ticket for their specific car, and they're all talking at the same time, and they refuse to leave you alone. They just trail you everywhere you go. And then they have a cartel, give you this even well printed, crisp, like white crisp, well printed and even laminated sheet of paper that shows you these super inflated taxes. Like, they wanted us to pay 5,000 Kenya shillings, which is like $50 US, to go from Tunduma, the Tanzanian side of the Tanzania-Zambia border, into Lusaka, when the actual cost is like half that. And then sometimes they have people who even act like they're passengers, and they're so smartly dressed. There's even this woman nicely dressed in her Sunday best, looking like just a nice mom that if you're a traveler and you're looking for a friendly face you think you can trust, but she's in on the game, right? So she tells you, this is the only bus that's leaving, and we're leaving soon. Just pay, join us, It's nice and warm in here. My impressions of the intercity bus stop in Lusaka, it was super busy. Like when you first walk in, you get all these people coming to you again, trying to get you to get a bus ticket, trying to sell you something, trying to carry your bags. But I found them to be more respectful than the guys we met in Mbeya. Intercity, it's like this big bus stop. You get a bus to different cities around Zambia. You can even get a bus to some different countries in Southern Africa. So definitely find out what's what. From Lusaka, we went to Livingstone. Livingstone in Zambia was my favorite part of this whole trip. I have a vlog on what we did in Livingstone, so go check that out. From Livingstone, we went to Namibia. So we went to Namibia through Katima Mulilo, which is on the border side. It's a pretty nice town. We spent 2 days there, stayed at Kaprivi Mutoya, which is a really lovely lodge out there. Then from Katima Mulilo, we went to Windhoek. Windhoek, capital city of Namibia. We had such grand plans when we got to Windhoek. We wanted to go see the Dead Vlei, Susvlei, Swakopmund. I'm definitely butchering those names, but Namibia is such a beautiful country, so many things to do. But when we got to Windhoek, some things happened. Bonita lost her passport, had to go to the Kenyan embassy to get like a travel document written up so we could come back. And then coronavirus was rife at that time. Countries were starting to go on lockdown, and we were like, let's just go home. We can get stuck out here. In fact, when we got back to Kenya went into lockdown, I think 4 days later. So we were lucky. From Windhoek, we took a flight that took us to South Africa, and then we came back to Nairobi. That was our route. I hope this video helped. I hope you planned that trip. Let's stay connected. I will see you in my next video, which is coming up in the next few days. Bye.